Hello and welcome to Advancing AI. This is a new part of the channel where we're going to be focusing on all sorts of AI development, generative AI, LLMs, all of that good stuff that is coming out, giving us a chance to have a look at the Microsoft and OpenAI side of the fence, as well as what's going on in the Databricks world and anywhere really. So one of the main things people have been trying to do is harness the power of ChatGPT and build their own generative model. That is all the rage. Everyone's currently trying to do it. And then stumbling and going, but how do I do it? Do I just use an API? Do I just sling this stuff over to it? How do you actually go about building a lightweight, quick generative AI model over your own data with your own control and plugging it into your other apps? So we're going to do a really quick, simple example of that today and talk about how you can actually practically go ahead and use it. That is the plan. So Advancing AI brought to you by Advancing Analytics. We are a data engineering and AI company in the UK, and we help people all across the world harness the power of AI and data and build lake houses and use MLOps and do all of that good stuff. So if you need any help, get in touch. And as always, if you're new around here, don't forget to like and subscribe. So as anyone who's been watching the channel for a long time knows, I'm not a data scientist. I don't do AI. Therefore, we have our help as ever of our head of AI, Gavi. Welcome back to the show.
Hi, Simon. Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction.
It's all good. Just excited. Excited because we've got
always exciting to be here. Always very exciting to talk about AI as well. So yeah, thank you.
So what's the plan? What have we got ahead of us? Obviously, I'm loving the logo.
Oh, thank you. You just mentioned a keyword there. You said everyone's looking to develop their own generative AI application or LLM application. Well, I don't know whether you want to call it LLM apps or GenAI apps, whatever camp you want to be in. But yeah, everyone is out there trying to get something going, trying to prove value from generative AI. So what we've done, or our team have done over the past couple of weeks, is to develop a chat with your own internal policies for advancing analytics. So what you see in front of here is chat with the advancing analytics file. And what we've done is loaded a few company policies there just to help people get onboarded. So kind of new people or even existing employees like myself who can't remember, the 2 or 3 or 4 policies we have now, can't remember every word. I can chat to it and get information very, very quickly.
So what I'm saying is, if you're in a large company and you have a HR department, a people experience department, whatever you happen to call it, however they're working, and people keep coming and asking the same questions because they haven't read their policy documents, what we can do is put a quick app over the top of it and say, just ask it a natural language question on top of your own data.
Yeah, that's right. What's important to also remember, those documents are private to us. So using a pre-trained LLM out there will not be any good because they would not have access to our documents. But what we've done here is grounded those documents using a technique called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. And then we've used clever techniques behind that to store that embeddings and then retrieve it using large language models. But this application you see here was built with Python and Streamlit.
So we just thrown a load of terms in there, and I want to be really, really clear what we're talking about.
Yeah,
so
sure.
With ChatGPT exploding, we heard some very high-profile cases of people sending top-secret confidential information, pasting it into ChatGPT going, can you summarize this for me? And that goes to a third-party company. Think about where you're putting your data, people. And so there's this big, whilst there's a load of hype around generative AI and ChatGPT and all those things, there's then been this massive backlash of going, ooh, but I don't want it to have my data. So what we're talking about with retrieval augmented generation,
Yep, that's right.
is about saying, hey, actually, instead of sending all my data off, actually, I want to, at runtime, give it a bit of context, give it the context of the document I'm talking about, without that actually then being sent and part of the training model and given away to a third party, right?
Well, what we've done here as well to make sure that the information doesn't leave our ring fence is to make sure we use Azure OpenAI as well. So we're part of Azure. That's all secure. So our data is our data. That's not being leaked across to anybody else or being used for retraining as well.
So you want to ask questions of your data using a large language model like ChatGPT without giving your data away is what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. But there are lots and lots of different ways in terms of developing large language applications. One way is what we've shown here. We can use Python and Streamlit to do it. But what we're going to talk about today is PromptFlow that's backed by Microsoft. So it's open source. And what we're going to look at is how people can get ahead using PromptFlow to develop large language apps, mouthful, LLM apps, large language model applications. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Well, before we do it, can we just make sure this thing works?
Absolutely. You can't ask it anything about yourself, though.
What medical benefits do I get?
I can ask that.
I'm worried about my health. I'm getting old. I'm getting old and grey. What do I get from our HR policy currently?
Well, medical benefits. I mean, as a CEO, Simon, I'm thinking that you should know this already.
Well, it's been a while.
So, so let's have a go. Oh, I've spelled it wrong, but I'm sure it's clever enough to figure it out. Let's have a look. It's running up there. So that's Streamlit's way of showing that it's just processing that information. Actually, I didn't load the documents. Oh, I did. So there you go. So as an employee, you're entitled to several medical benefits.
Medical insurance, dental insurance. Great. Okay, I feel supported. I've got my answer.
Yeah, definitely works. So yeah,
and
definitely.
That's not a custom app that we've built around HR data about policy information. We've not plugged it into a Q&A and had to structure this data. We've literally said, there is the PDF document, I assume, that we give to all employees and say, look in there if you've got your policies.
Yeah.
And we've just hooked that up and said, ask any question you want.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
We've got quite clever techniques behind that, which we can talk about some other time. But yeah, that's essentially exactly what you've said and described. It's exactly what this is.
And then you mentioned PromptFlow. So this application is custom built, load of Python behind the scenes, just doing sort of using some of the tools that we talked about in the past in terms of how you hook that stuff up. But if someone's looking at that going, custom coding, and they still want to achieve this, that's what we're talking about, right? How do you build this kind of app without being a developer?
Yeah, and there's loads and loads of other options on the market. So there's Flowise, which I've got a little page up here, and I love Flowise. I've used Flowise myself. Now, Flowise makes it very easy. It's open source, and you can I've built an application under a minute. It's that easy to use. So if you've not heard of Flowise, I encourage you to go and have a look. There's also LangFlow. LangFlow sounds very similar to LangChain, but it's not the same company. I don't think it is anyway. And again, it's same. It's UI based, where you can drag and drop certain components to build your large language applications very easily. These are pretty much your no-code, low-code kind of platforms that's available. Okay. But like I said today, we're going to be looking at PromptFlow. I love the new logo of PromptFlow, backed by Microsoft. And what it is, it streamlines the end-to-end LLM-based AI applications. So from ideation right through deployment, and it's enterprise ready as well. There's a lot of features in it. So you can, if you're choosing to develop this in Azure machine learning, which we're going to have a look in a bit, then you can do so. But if you want to do it open source, you want to develop your using PromptFlow in VS Code, for example, it's a simple install. And this page is brilliant. There's loads of how-to guides and tutorials to get you started.
Cool. But this is baked into the Azure ML server. So you don't, it's not kind of cobbling together some open source things. It's just they've taken this, they've helped back this and kind of develop it, and then let's plug it into our tools.
Yeah, you can do that. So what this is, so I'll show you what it is though. So here you can, for example, you can collaborate with your team using Azure AI, PromptFlow in Azure AI, or you can do this independently in VS Code. But let's have a look at Azure Machine Learning. This is your new Azure Machine Learning. Now, if you do not see this screen, then you have to go into your Manage Preview Features and make sure you enable a couple of things here to make sure you're getting those updates and seeing this preview features. One thing that I probably need to mention as well, PromptFlow, as we're recording this, is still in public preview. So it might change in the next couple of weeks, months, who knows? But yeah, you would, if you enable those notifications and you get to see the preview features, then you get to see this PromptFlow right down on the left-hand side of the navigation pane with a little tag saying preview to it. So when you click on that, this is what we get to. And I'm just going to quickly just kind of describe what we've done here again. So similar to our Advancing Analytics chat with your file system, what I've done here is created a chat with your MLOps book that's been published by Databricks. I love the big book of MLOps. and I often go back to it and just kind of rejig my memory. And what I've done is I've grounded that book using PromptFlow in Azure Machine Learning, and I can chat to it. So that's what I'm going to showcase today.
So what you're saying is, I no longer need to get you to read a book and then ask you questions about it. I can now just point this at the book and then say, what does it say about there? And it'll just like summarize and regurgitate to me anything I passed it to. Sounds great.
That sounds great, right? In fact, I've actually deployed this to an endpoint using Azure Machine Learning. I'm going to fast forward a bit to show you the capability, and then maybe we can step back and take you through how I've actually done this. So here I have deployed the application that we created onto it on Azure Machine Learning, and let's test it. Let's have a look at what is the faces within MLOps. So remember, I've already grounded the book. The book's, it's only going to look at that particular book and it's going to answer, hopefully, yes, it does, answer the question looking at that particular document.
So I guess for people like looking at this going, well, isn't that just the same as using ChatGPT? It's like, if you're worried about hallucination, you're worried about it making things up, you're worried about it doesn't know, and therefore it kind of just goes, oh, well, it'll be something like this.
Exactly.
This is avoiding that problem, going, answer the question based on what is in this reference. And just,
exactly,
as you said, grounding it is essentially that kind of saying, applying a bounded box around it to give context about where the answer has to come from.
That's exactly it.
Very cool.
So
right.
How do we do this? Yep. So how do we do this? So with PromptFlow, that streamlined the whole process. And let's have a look. I'll show you how really quickly I've managed to do this. So if you're going to do this, you've got a couple of things that you need to set up. The documents are very, very good, very comprehensive. You set your connections up, you set your runtime, and you're good to go. So here I've already got one example ready to show you, Si. And this is what you should see. So you should see this whole screen. On the left-hand side is where you can bring in your components. You can bring in some bit of Pythons. You can bring in your prompts. You can bring variants of prompts, which I find pretty good. So you're not just using one prompt, and you have records of all the different prompts that you've actually used to generate the application. You can see the flow of how you're connecting each of those blocks together, which is pretty good, which is pretty helpful if you are especially new to this, and you can see the flow. You can test each bit as well in isolation, which I find helpful. And it just makes it very, very simple to use. So when Microsoft has said they've streamlined the whole process, that's actually quite true. So all you have to do is you set up your connections, and if you're not using Azure OpenAI, and if you're using other services, you just pretty much click what you want to be using here after you set up the connections.
And if people have been using Azure Logic Apps, this looks very familiar. It's the same kind of steps that you go through, going do a task, join it to the next task, and kind of you're building out, you're picking from a bunch of pre-built tasks, and then just drag and drop and saying, do that thing, and then from that, take the answer, put it into that thing. That's a really similar flow. So Logic Apps or Power Automate works in a very similar way. And I guess kind of the ML Studio Designer kind of had a similar kind of thing. So it should be quite familiar for anyone who's done anything in Azure previously.
Yeah. And to be honest, I like the way they're trying to get everybody, on a same kind of plane, to get them developing or exploring how we develop large language model applications, which is it's very cool.
Yeah.
And so here what we've done is exactly how I started off the kind of demo showing how we can chat with our own files. You can do that here as well, and that's a far quicker way. So this has taken less than 5 minutes, and we can get something going. But apart from all of this, there's loads of other things that we can do, and it's all available. And if you look at PromptFlow again, and if you go on to create, you've got lots of different framework from where you can start. So if you're doing, for example, document classification, you can use the web classification here. You can clone it, and you can change things accordingly, bring in what you need to be doing, and then start that as a kind of basic blocks and build on top of it. And there's loads of things that's already been provided to us, which I quite like. So there's lots and lots of features here. We can come back and talk about all the different features. But yeah, in terms of getting something going, if you're interested in trying to develop your own large language apps, this is a cool way to do it.
Yeah, like just super, super quick way to start. Not actually that many specialist skills needed to actually do it. Very importantly, you don't need a giant pile of GPUs in your Azure subscription, which is really hard to get a hold of at the moment.
Yes.
So we're not saying take a model, pull it down, fine tune it, do a load of model retraining, and you need to have someone who's fairly specialist and understands that kind of stuff. It's
Yep.
You're using an off the shelf. You're using one of the models that's hosted through Azure OpenAI, and you're saying, actually, I just want to drag and drop some stuff, take an existing template, tweak it a bit to my own needs, and then you've got something that can actually do, essentially handle your interactions between you and OpenAI.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and also the deployment side of it, really super quick and easy as well. So that's another positive about PromptFlow in Azure Machine Learning.
So essentially, you build out your flow. You test out all the different prompts and you look at the responses and you go, yeah, that's working the way I want it to. And then I assume, like a lot of Azure ML, you hit a button and it stands up an endpoint and gives you a web service, right?
Yeah, you've summarized the three main steps in terms of developing applications in generative AI and large language models. You develop it, you tune it, so that's mean improving it, and that all boils down to, are we using the right prompt template, and are we prompt engineering the right things out of the whole workflow? And once you then decide, right, this is the exact prompt that I would like to use, you deploy it. So all that has been made very, very easy, streamlined, PromptFlow.
Very cool. So people at home, the reason why Gavi was looking slightly awkward there is because we had a whole argument as to whether PromptFlow is engineering or not. So PromptFlow, it has lots of prompt engineering baked into it. So you can do things like, say, generate all the different variants of this prompt, and it'll generate 5 different flavors of it. So you can say, actually, yeah, even if it generates different ones, this is the right for it. You can pass in different templates. It's certainly doing all of the things we've seen in like LangChain and that kind of thing in terms of what prompt engineering is. Gavi's arguing it's a higher level thing because it's PromptFlow, because it's doing prompt engineering and also doing the setup and the thing. I'm saying it's all just managing how you send prompts through to a LLM. Doesn't really matter. It's all semantics. Essentially, it's kind of making sure that you do have prompt engineering in the mix. It's trying to make sure that, you know, people aren't building a generative AI application and not thinking about it, and then just suddenly they're getting different answers because they've changed the model behind the scenes, or different people have different experiences, or there's hallucinations, all those things people worry about. It's the things that you need to have a little bit of guide rails to make sure the interaction has the right context, has the right persona, has all that good stuff baked into it. And this is letting you do it via a templated, nice scripted way that's really easy. Whether or not it's all prompt engineering or it's PromptFlow, which contains engineering, doesn't matter. Cool.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, I like what I've seen so far. I like the way that it's just going to accelerate, you know, a lot of us in terms of getting, hey, I'm interested in creating a large language model to classify my insurance documents, for example. This is an easy way to get started.
Very cool. All right, so people need to turn the preview on? Do people need anything else? It's just, if you're using Azure currently, you can just deploy Azure ML, get started?
Absolutely, yeah. It's in the preview, so like I said, if you can't see the screen of what I see now, then all you have to do is click on Enable Preview Features, and that will pop up.
Very, very cool. Alrighty. Well, thanks for coming and showing us that, and hopefully that is just people inspired as to how quickly you can actually build a generative AI application and start plugging it in, whether it's for some internal use cases in business to make people's lives easier and save them time and accelerate stuff, whether it's actually to stand up an own application, have it bedded into the product that you're selling. This is there, this will work, this will get you there quickly, although it's still in preview, so don't build a production level product in it until it's actually in GA. All right, Gavi, thanks always for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a good day.
All right, so there you go. So yes, it is an evolving field. There's a ton of stuff coming out, but Azure AI inside the Azure ML Studio now has all this stuff baked into it. Look up PromptFlow, have a look at actually how you get started with it. As Gavi showed us, there's a ton of templates there for doing different things that you can achieve with a large language model. And loads of things where we've spoken to people and said, actually, you can just throw a large language model like that and it'll go so much, you can get so much value from it. And people look at it and go, oh, but I'm not sure about sharing my data. I'm not sure about the development time. I'm not sure how long it'll take us to build it and support it. But hopefully you see there, using that technique, you're not actually sending your document data out and it is safe and inside your Azure ecosystem. And that is a major worry just gone away. And it's drag and drop, low code, actually super easy to do those things. Yeah, you need to have a think about what the prompt is you're sending through. Yeah, you need to think about the context that you're giving it and where your documents are. But that's like the business process solution problems. It's not the, oh, there's a load of scary new skills that we don't have yet. So it has never been easier to actually get hold of something, throw these kind of chatbots and like, question answers on my own data, throw that stuff and just start seeing value from it. So hopefully you are inspired with a load of stuff that you can go away and try. If you want to try and get started with it and you need some help, give Advancing Analytics a call. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.